It's nice to see you, Adam. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your time. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Lee. I appreciate it.
Good. I read that you're from Raleigh, NC. Represent.
That is correct. Yes,
I
Raleigh,
I
North
worked
Carolina.
in. I did some marketing and real estate in Wilmington
Okay,
and Jacksonville too. So
very nice.
I guess go Wolfpack.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm originally from Florida, so I'm Switzerland when it comes to all the North Carolina schools. I don't
I
care
got.
much, right? So like the NC State, the UNC, the Duke like battle. I never picked a team because I wasn't born into that, right? So
Gotcha.
my
Gotcha.
wife is a big Duke fan just because of her family is, and so I'm like, if I'm gonna pick one, I'm gonna go on colors, and I like NC State's colors the best,
Yeah,
red and black.
I agree.
So
Better colors.
right,
Well,
yeah,
Well, that's great to hear. Well, anyway, I will just straight off the bat, I would ask the first question I ask every guest because
sure,
the audience wants to know, and I want to know personally,
yeah,
who is Adam Colburn outside of your profession? Outside of the
yeah,
professional world, who is Adam?
absolutely. I am a husband of coming on 13 years to my amazing wife Rachel. I'm a father to 4 kids, and I'm a man of faith. Um, Everything that I do is for the glory of God, and so I feel like I've been given very unique talents in the real estate space to make an impact and ultimately provide for the kingdom as well as my family. So, in a nutshell, that's me. I'm a coffee addict. I own a coffee shop. That was a childhood dream. I love hockey and photography and skateboarding, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, for a person who, by the way, I'm a man of faith as well. Love to hear that for the kingdom and love that statement. But for a person who, I don't want to say I can't drink coffee, but it's almost like because
Okay.
I'm hypersensitive to caffeine,
Okay.
let's say.
Sure.
How would you market it to me? Your coffee shop?
Oh man. Well, I mean, as far as just like a space, right? It's very eclectic, and so obviously I'm a coffee like snob, right? Very much so like people in wine or like craft beer and stuff. There's levels to coffee, right? And so like you've got your diner store coffee, you've got your Starbucks or Tim Hortons, and then you have like the specialized shops. We're a specialized shop, but our entire mission on getting like the aura of the shop is that we want to make like high level craft coffee approachable to the everyman, right? And so the name of our shop is Parallax Coffee Lab. Parallax is a photography term meaning a shift in perspective. And so we want to bring super high quality, like teach you about coffee, but in an approachable way. Because a lot of times you go to these fancy hipster shops and it's pretty pretentious. And unless you know very specific origin stories of where this coffee was grown and the temperature that it's brewed at, that they kind of look at you sideways. We don't want to have that. And so our shop's also like very bright colors, art deco, kind of like your eclectic aunt's house, right? So it's a cool place to hang out. That's typically where I shoot a lot of my content after hours, which is fun. We're actually doing some construction on the building right now. But outside of coffee, we do matcha direct from Japan. So do some specialty teas. We do some lemonades and stuff like that. And so outside of just coming to get a drink, just the experience of being in the space is really cool. So
I
yeah,
love that. Well, my father is quite a coffee snob as well, and I don't want to get sued by Starbucks, but I over roasted. I think you have to
uh,
agree.
yeah,
Doesn't taste
dude,
great as doesn't taste great. And
yeah,
you
it's burnt.
said you're originally from burnt. That is
That
true.
is the word.
Uh, since you are from Florida originally, how many years
Yeah.
have you been in Raleigh?
So we moved up here in 2006. So basically, right at the middle of my life, right? So I was born and raised in Florida, grew up on the Gulf Coast in a small town called Bradenton, Florida. And my dad got a job offer up here in Raleigh in 2006. So we moved up here. That was right in between. I was halfway through eighth grade when that was happening. So rough transition for me. But once we got up here, we've been here ever since. And then obviously I met my wife and we put down roots here. So if people ask, I'm from North Carolina, but I was born in Florida. Yeah,
Gotcha.
for
So
sure.
you're that's why I asked because you said art. You mentioned the art, and of course, City of Oaks. known
Yeah,
for your art stuff.
totally. Right. Yeah, creatives all over the place up here in the Raleigh area for sure.
Interesting. Well, when people hear real estate investor and then coffee shop owner, serial entrepreneur, because I know you are, they
Yes.
hear these titles, but how have you? What was your path or progress? Well, which came first?
Totally. Well, I was raised in an entrepreneur household, so it's kind of been in my blood, but I would say I was a late bloomer to the entrepreneurship space. And so my biggest kind of push or motivation in life going through like high school and early on to college was just hanging out with my buddies. If I'm looking to go make money, it's just to be able to buy a burrito and go to the skate park and hang out with my dudes, right? And so not really thinking about wealth creation, not thinking about legacy, anything like that. It came much later after my wife and I got married. We had our second child, my daughter Gwen, and at that point, I had been a full-time real estate photographer, shooting listings for agents and investors for a few years. And that's where I initially got like the bug of like, this is really cool. The whole Property Brothers thing. This seems fun, but I don't understand where they're finding these deals, how they're funding these deals. At the time, we were still renting our own house. So I'm like, I don't know where I would even get the money to do something like this. You don't find these like beat up homes on the MLS, right? So like learning where this source is. And it was a lot of just imposter mindset, right? Like I wasn't ready. And so fast forward a few years, I go back to a previous employer in the pharmaceutical space doing some maintenance work. And so it was like specialized HVAC is what I did kind of on and off out of college. And was working there. It was secure, right? W-2, clock in, clock out kind of situation, but I could see the ceiling, right? All of my coworkers were 20 years older than me, and we were doing the same type of work every day. We might work 3 hours of our 8 hour shift. The rest of the time, we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs. And the three guys I was working with were just looking at their 401ks, waiting to retire. And I wanted so much more for myself, so much more for my family. And so I'm having this existential crisis on my couch at 2 a.m. of like, what am I going to do to provide the life that my family deserves? And so obviously my background in photography, that was more of a passion. I shot a lot of weddings. I did stuff like that and it was fun and we were making money, but it's a huge time suck. And like we mentioned, the Raleigh area is just drowning in creatives. And so it was a race to the bottom in that space, right? And so it's like, sure, I could go and shoot weddings or engagements or graduations or whatever, but I'm going to have to charge so little to get clients. It's not worth my time. And all of the high paying jobs are on the weekends, right? I want to see my family more, not less. And so the amount of money that I could make versus the time away from home just didn't make sense to me. And so I started this deep dive down the rabbit hole of YouTube trying to find side hustles, right? And so we tried all the things. We did the Amazon FBA, we did drop shipping, we did print on demand t-shirt company, all with like varying successes, but nothing to really move the needle. And so about 6 months into this side hustle journey that I'm like using all my spare time to research, even while I'm at work, I stumble across a video by Jerry Norton, one of the OGs in the space, about wholesaling real estate, right? Where we could take this piece of paper, get a house under contract at a certain price, sell that piece of paper to an investor at a higher price, you make the spread. And that just melted my brain of like, how is this even legal? How is this legitimate? But I've tried everything else. Like, let me research this a little bit further. And so I started doing some digging on some local Facebook groups like the RIAs and the other like wholesaler spaces, and started to network with people in my area that I could see that were posting often. I was like, man, hey, reach out, just cold message to that, which became my first mentor. His name's Ted. And I messaged him, I was like, hey man, you don't know me, but I keep seeing all this stuff about wholesaling and the potential to make all this money. And like, frankly, I think it's a scam. Like, can you
Oh,
show me a receipt that you actually made money doing this? I called it a receipt. I didn't know what a closing statement was or HUD or any of that stuff. I'm like, show me a receipt that you made money. And like, it took like 4 or 5 days for him to respond, which I don't blame him. He doesn't know me. just some random dude sending him a message. And so he messaged me back. He's like, "Oh no, this is super real. I just sold a infill lot in Garner, which is a neighboring town to us, and I made 20 grand. Here's the receipt, newbie." He sent like a picture of it, and he said,
He really
"Welcome to
said
the
that. He
club."
really said
Yeah,
newbie. Oh,
yeah.
cool.
He's like, yeah, here's the receipt, newbie. Welcome to the club. And I was like, no way. This dude like did it in my backyard. Like I know this area. And so once that happened, I just went full bore on all the education, consuming all the podcasts, reading all the books, networking with as many people and as possible. Then I quickly found Pace Morby, Jamil Damji, Brent Daniels, the whole wholesale hotline kind of crew on YouTube, and really resonated with Pace and his creative strategies because obviously I didn't have a ton of money. Buying properties creatively with no money down sounded like the coolest thing ever. And just his energy level, his go-giver mentality was like, it just really resonated with me. And so I ended up joining the free group that he has on Facebook with like hundreds of thousands of people. Started networking with folks there and found one of my first business partners there in the free group. And so we started partnering together, started doing some wholesale deals, getting that proof of concept that slowly transitioned into taking properties down ourselves and fix and flipping. We did a handful of those that transitioned into buying rentals. And then eventually the coffee shop thing came about kind of separately, but that was always a childhood dream of mine to own a shop, but more just pie in the sky, like bucket list, right? Like I would love to own one of these places. I love spending time here. I built my entire photography business in a coffee shop, right? And so just having that kind of pseudo office hangout spot, community hub was really important to me, but it was never something that I was pursuing heavily. But the opportunity presented itself and I couldn't say no. And so we jumped into that. So it's from starting in the real estate space and really going full bore as an investor to now has been about 5.5 years.
TTP, talk to people. Brent Daniels, I just talked to him last week. The energy
Brent's
is
the man.
He's amazing. Well,
Yeah, dude.
do you still have your business partner? Do you still have your business partner with you?
I do currently, yes. His name's Scott. He's a CPA by trade. And so the way that we kind of built our relationship is he had more money than time. He was drowning in tax returns and couldn't really keep up with calling people. He was already funding some marketing efforts with VAs and mail and stuff. And so when we got together, I was like, look, I don't have much of either, money or time, but I've got more time than you. So I would be willing to do the acquisition, the disposition, build our buyers list, figure out a way to monetize these deals, and then we just split the fees. And that's how we got started, and then have ran the course ever since. I've worked with a bunch of other members within the community. Because about 2 years in, I officially joined Sub 2 and some of the other mastermind groups within Pace's sphere. And so I've been able to collaborate with a lot of other super high level investors all across the country in a variety of different strategies. But yeah, me and Scott are still together for the time. So it's been a crazy journey.
Not to create any animosity or arguments, but I want to know your perspective on this. Brent, I asked a question to Brent last week. I asked, what is it? Because he was reading Robert Kiyosaki, Good Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I started talking about business partners. He actually disagrees with business partners. Of course, we can agree to disagree. You still have your business partner. He disagrees. In real estate, he says he doesn't really agree with having business partners. Eventually, you have to split. How does that work for you? I think obviously you have different roles. What is your perspective in having a business partner in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer in that. It definitely is going to depend on the people that are involved and the ultimate vision and goals of the people involved in the partnership. I think roles can change and adjust, and that may mean splitting, hopefully at an amicable level. A lot of times there can be some animosity there. But I think setting proper expectations on the front end is super important if you're going to get into business with somebody. And I would highly suggest doing more of like a dating phase first, right? Let's just do some joint ventures. Let's see if we like working together before we actually like get married in a sense, right? Start an LLC, get bank accounts together, do that kind of stuff. and then just having those heart-to-heart conversations and like checking in, like, are my goals still aligning with your goals? And if not, how do we ratify that? Right. And so I think it all comes down to the person involved. I mean, would I do it all again the exact same? No. I've learned a lot of expensive lessons along the way, right? With a variety of different people. So would I be a little bit more tactful in what I'm doing? Yes, of course, but obviously hindsight's 2020. Um, but I think there's value in partnerships. It's as long as the expectations are set up front.
And I think it really works for you because the roles are really different. And I talked to other guests as
Yeah.
well. Both of them were in the podcast. They were cousins,
Hmm.
and yeah, 100%. I thank you for giving your perspective on that. How far are
Yeah.
you from your goal now? Like, are you still growing your business? How big is your team?
Yeah, so we keep it pretty lean. We work with a lot of other like newer investors, but basically kind of bird dogging deals or doing some like appointment setting, kind of teaching them learn while you earn kind of situation. And so I don't have like a heavy like W-2 staff for our business. We've shifted our model as far as active income because we were really heavy wholesale when we first got started. Then we started doing a lot more fix and flips, kind of tweak the fix and flip model to only focus on creative fix and flips, which we could get into a little bit of just how we structure those deals. And so we still do quite a few of those, but I've since changed our model even further to focus on very niche distressed assets on the title side of things. So curative title is what we focus on. So there's lots of death involved. There's back taxes. There's the title on the property is uninsurable for some specific reason, and typically it has something to do with family lineage. And so it's more on the real estate law side of things rather than the actual property itself. And so that's been a new model that we've been focusing on from an active income side, just because there's a lot less competition and there's a way more abundant deal flow in that space. But it's a lot to learn. I feel like a brand new wholesaler again, which has been frustrating and exciting at the same time. And so, but from a like a portfolio perspective, we focus primarily on sober living. So transitional housing homes for people coming out of rehab centers or being re-entered from the prison system. And so my goal is to continue to grow that aggressively all across the country. We primarily focus on doing like a master lease model to nonprofits or other for-profit service providers. And so my goal, my big vision is that I want to provide safe and affordable housing for 1,250 people transitioning out of rehab, all while netting $100,000 a month. And so if I reverse engineer that, I think we landed, it was like 162 homes that I need with our current margins to hit that goal. And so we've got quite a ways to go to get there, but we have the guardrails on the business on how to achieve that. It's just putting the pieces in place.
So I guess that's your part. That's part of your niche, or you're trying to niche in that area.
Yeah.
And what do you think you do differently? Because you said we're going to talk about like to talk about how the process and you do the fix and flips and how you do that.
Yeah,
While they're talking about that, please add like how you see yourself doing things differently.
totally. I think it's just I would call myself a deal engineer, right?
Oh,
And
that's a good
so
one.
I love the creative aspect of real estate and how wide the parameters can be if people are open to it, right? If we're actually wanting to find a true win-win solution, we can. Let's just figure out which levers we need to pull to create that win-win solution. So that's what I love about real estate, that every deal, they may be similar, but there are different nuances to it. And it all comes down to the buyer and the seller in the transaction. And so talking about like how we structure our fix and flips now, we started to build a decent pipeline of leads within the senior living space. So a lot of seniors that are transitioning into assisted living, or maybe they bought a condo at the beach. They have this large house with a lot of equity, but it has significant deferred maintenance for them to be able to sell for the highest price, right? If I'm able to come in and, like a traditional investor, offer 70% minus repairs, out the door cash deal. We can do that. It's clean and easy, but they're leaving a lot of money on the table. And rather than them having to go and pull a HELOC or some other sort of line of credit for them to fix up the house themselves to then hit that higher dollar amount, they're adding a ton of time to the deal. And also, they're not really going to get that return on investment because the pricing that a retail homeowner is going to get from a contractor is not the same as what I'm getting from a volume investor, right? And so if I'm able to structure a deal where I can give them part of their equity up front, I can take over any existing debt on the house, or if it's a free and clear home, we set up a seller finance note. We come in and we renovate the home. And then once we sell, they get the lion's share of their equity. I can pay 10 to 20% more than any cash investor can because I'm able to leverage that debt on the house and really maximize their equity. And so that's what we focus on when we're structuring our fix and flips. And so I can pay my sellers more money rather than some nameless bank using hard money and paying all the points and junk fees. Keeps me more liquid because I need to bring less money to the deal. And then I'll just engage one of my private money letters to fund the rehab. So then I can get their money to work. They're not super excited about the returns in the stock market. I can give them double-digit returns backed by an asset. Everybody's winning in this transaction. And then what helps me is I actually mitigate my downside risk because I have a lot less money out in the street that if something does go wrong with the deal, I'm leveraging an amortized loan rather than an interest-only loan that has a doomsday timeline on it with additional fees and all that kind of stuff. And this structure has saved us in the past a massive amount. We're talking to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars or potential like bankruptcy on one where we were fighting the town, we were fighting contractors stealing money, bad partnership that was changing the scope of work. So our $250,000 budget turned into like a $450,000 budget. 6-month timeline turned into 14-month timeline, but we were still able to make money on that deal because of the deal structure. Where if I bought that house with hard money, like a traditional investor would, I would have been super underwater and had to have given the house back. And it could have been a really messy situation.
If it's okay, that's genius, actually. I'll be honest with you, that's genius.
Thanks,
if it's okay to ask, how did you come up with this? Because obviously there's a lot of self-studying, mentorship that you mentioned earlier, right? How did you come up with this actual very sound system?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, huge shout out to my mentor, Pace Morby. He was the one that kind of really framed it, at least the use case of it, but we've turned it into like our own business model. And so it's really just looking at the numbers. Obviously, you have to have a very specific type of seller that's okay with waiting. And so seniors transitioning into care because we know where they're going, we know what it costs to move into those places. Those are like my number one best avatar of seller to work with. And number two is in the pre-foreclosure space. So we can do these as well and maximize the equity for these people that are about to lose it all at auction. Let me come in, let me catch up the loan, let me take over the loan. I can even give you a little bit of time to help you find a new place to live that's affordable. We'll come in and fix up the house, get you some of your equity, and then obviously we cover our fees for making the deal happen. But those two use cases are the 1 and 2 punch of how we've structured this business. And it just made the most sense. We're bringing the most value there, and it's the most upside for us with minimizing our downside risk. And so it just kind of happened organically, worked a couple times. We had the proof of concept, and then that's kind of how we present ourselves in the marketplace now to be different than any other investor.
And it's always been that way after that, right? Because it works.
Yep.
It works. And
yeah, exactly. Well, and for me too, it's like I would rather structure it this way because I can move so much faster, right? I don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of working with a hard money lender who can promise that they can close in 10 days, but that really means 90, get my sellers upset, lose opportunities because of that, and tie up a lot more capital. If I only need to bring a small amount to the table to secure my position so I have skin in the game with my seller, I can utilize all these PML relationships and go and fund multiple deals with the same pool of cash, if that makes sense, right? Instead of having to bring the entire purchase price and the entire rehab one at a time, I can spread it across 3 or 4 deals, maximize my profit, pay my sellers more money than anyone else can, and still feel good about it because my margin is there.
Still have time too, right? Still have time for your family, all that. Like you control everything. Genius. Are you the only one doing this in Raleigh right now?
In Raleigh, possibly, I think there's one or two other buddies of mine still within sub 2 that are doing this type of strategy, and we're actually planning like a 2-day event to teach this model here in Raleigh. That'll be a ticketed event later this fall. That we're still working out the details as far as hotel and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean it's a great model. It's not anything that I'm keeping like hidden. It's just you have to understand how to structure it, right? It's outside of the box, which is where I love to be, right? We live in the gray in this space, which is fun. It doesn't have to be black and white. We can still find that win-win solution. And so I know a handful of folks that are doing it across the country. The one guy comes to mind. His name's Casey Gregerson. He's based out of Houston, Texas. He does a model of this um, that's similar to mine. He does more of a profit share with his sellers, where I like to have like a hard, fast number of whether I make $1 or I make $1 million. You guys are walking away with this number, and so it's up to me as the operator to run my project effectively, rather than the profit split. Yeah, they'll make more money if we sell for more, but they also make less if we sell for less, which is it's six of one, half dozen of another. Both strategies are amazing. It's really just what the investor wants to do. But I know Casey does a lot of those, and he's crushing it out there in the Houston area. And then myself, I have one other partner of mine. His name's John Fothergill, and he's based out of Boston. And so he structures his deals very similar as well. So there's a few of us out there, but it's definitely not the common strategy in the flipping space.
Gotcha. We're already 30 minutes in. I'm going to ask you one more question about your career in real estate. I'm going to do a quick fire stage, more of like a personal thing, because that's the shtick of this podcast.
Sure.
We're beyond real estate. So
Got it.
the last question I want to ask is, what are your challenges now in growing your business and your goals? And if there's one thing, sorry, it's two questions rolled into one.
Yeah, no worries.
If there's one thing that you would eliminate in your process that would make things much easier, what would it be?
Mm. Yeah, I think the biggest like bottleneck for us to grow is really just having that hyper discipline to only focus on that one thing, right? That's the beauty and difficulty of real estate, is that shiny object is so real in this space because everything does work. Everything does make money. It's just they don't all make money at the same time. And so still to this day, 5 years in, still struggling with like, ooh, let's go do RV parks. Let's go do this thing. Let's go buy other businesses because we see other people succeeding in that space, is taking time away from what we know that works and what is scalable and repeatable. And so I think just being very diligent on what we want to focus on for those long-term goals. And I think the one thing as far as our process is, we're still very new as far as the like systems and automations piece, right? Like really implementing AI to do a lot of the data sifting and follow-ups and stuff like that. Like I've been spending a lot of time trying to learn that. But again, it kind of goes back to the first problem of like the shiny object, right? It's like, is this a money-making activity? Not yet, but it is necessary. And so, yeah, I think that's something that we want to implement more in, so that we can be focusing on solving the big problems, having the conversations, and pulling those levers, right? Let me sit in my zone of genius as the deal engineer, not in the weeds, in the spreadsheets, or in the research side of things to find the people that we need to talk to. And that's why we love to leverage like newer folks, where I need your time because I don't have any more, right? I can't go and buy more time, but I can leverage your time. You leverage my skill set. We both make more money together. So that's helping slightly, but I think utilizing AI and some of these other tools that are always on, are always working, and are always being optimized will be a huge lift for our business.
I've been finding that I have a lot in common in you. I was also a photographer in
Cool.
in an art space,
Nice.
and also not really real estate, but events photography. I'm a big camera nerd, and I want to know if
Yeah.
you are too.
Yeah.
Which brand did you choose, or which brand are you still using?
Yeah. I'm a Sony shooter till I die. I grew up on
Yes.
Nikon. My dad was a professional photographer way back in the 80s and 90s and always shot on Nikons. I have lots of friends in the film space that still love Canon. But at the end of the day, what are the sensors in those cameras? Sony makes them all. And so
Yeah.
that when they
Even in
started making
Fuji.
cameras, when they started making cameras, I was like, this is it, right? Like my last really nice camera that I had the Sony A2, I think.
Oh, old
And
school.
so
Okay.
it's been a minute. Because a lot of it started to collect dust as we started to pick up in the real estate space. And even like shooting my own listings didn't make sense anymore because it just ate up too much of my time. And so right now I'm shooting on a Sony A6300 just around the house with the kids. And then I actually have one of those. I don't know if you've seen these camp snaps
Oh, I
where
haven't. I haven't. I've heard
it's a
of that. Yeah.
digital, it's like a digital Kodak. So like a disposable camera, but it's got an SD card in it. And so
Oh,
there's
that small
there's
one with different
there's
colors.
no
Yeah, I got.
exactly no modification to it outside. The one that I have has some filters on it, but it's simplified it, and it's brought back more of the creative process of just like framing a shot, taking the shot, and like not editing it, I'm not getting anything crazy. So that's been really fun, like going on walks with the kids and just shooting like I used to. Way back when is really fun. My favorite style of shooting has always been for a hobby has always been like nightscapes. So like getting the star trails and shooting cars and stuff like that. And so my little 6300 can handle that just fine.
Okay.
Oh
APS-C.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does great. But yeah, I've been out of that space for quite some time. So I'm super like behind on what the new stuff is. A lot of my buddies are shooting Fuji now. And
Oh yeah, they're
the
killing
color
it.
gradings on those are so insane. Like I think their colors are the best.
Insane.
But yeah, when I was full-time pro, I was always shooting Sony. It just had to bring a lot of extra
The
batteries, right? That was
autofocus.
the always
The
it's
autofocus
insane.
can't beat it. I just sold my A6400 for an A7C2.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you're an APS-C. I like APS-C too. I like that crop, but
Yeah.
can't beat Sony with that one. And Fuji, I recently saw a post on Reddit. It was the RX 106, and
Okay.
it looked like a full frame camera, although it was APS-C. So insane colors. That. Thank you for that. Thank you for humoring me with that one.
For
I'm
sure.
a net camera nerd too.
No worries.
Last question for our audience. Okay, and not really a question, but a request. And I want you to dig personally here. What would you say to a person who's starting out, and what will be your statement of motivation for them?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would just I think, have enough courage to know that it's okay to fail, right? You're trying something new. You are going to fail. It's inevitable, right? But having the courage to know that and do it anyways is huge. But I think you will go so much further, so much faster if you attach yourself to somebody that's doing what you want to do rather than trying to do it all on your own. And so kind of going back to the whole partnership mentality, you don't have to so much build your business with somebody right off the rip, but finding somebody in your market that's doing fix and flips, that's buying multifamily, that's doing something and just saying, hey, how can I provide value to you and your business? I would love to shadow you and learn what you're doing. That's going to compress time in a way that nothing else can, right? You're going to put these rocket engines on your business because for me personally, it took me 8 months to close my first deal. Not without trying. I just didn't know what I didn't know, right? And even when Scott and I got together, we both were new pushing together, right? If I was able to come alongside somebody that actually knew what they were doing and say, hey, is this a deal? Is this not a deal? Why? How can I get better? And we could have closed something significantly faster. And that's really why we framed our we call it an orbit program, where people can come in and work alongside our business, focusing more on the appointment setter side of things. But then once we get an opportunity, we underwrite it together. I show them this is a deal, this is not a deal. If it is a deal, okay, bring it to me. I'll still close it. You listen to me, handle objections, pitch terms if it's necessary. We get the property under contract. We hold your hand through the whole escrow process, and then we get closed and everybody gets paid, right? And so it's the amount of equity that you're giving up compared to the knowledge that you're learning is insurmountable. And so I think the greatest advice that I could give you is go and find somebody that's doing what you want to do and just bring value to them.
All right. I want to ask one more if that's okay.
Yeah, totally.
One more. Okay. because it seems like this has been a gift, and I'm really curious about this. And another question comes in. I'm sorry. Was this always a gift for you, or did you find it was a skill? And once you answer that,
Yeah.
if you were to lean toward just one, skill or confidence, which is more important?
Mm. I would say I think it's both and, right? I think even the most gifted people still have to hone their craft. And so I think there is something in my brain that was naturally draws to this puzzle fixing, right? Like putting the puzzle together, and structuring these opportunities. But it still takes reps to get good at it and understand how to do it well and effectively. And so when it comes to skill versus confidence, I would say confidence more often than skill, depending on the situation, right? Like if we're getting on the phone with an agent and I'm supposed to explain how one of these creative flip offers works, and you're going to do the same thing, but you know to a T exactly all the paperwork and stuff, but I can explain it a little bit more articulate than you, who's going to get
Yeah,
the deal,
of
right?
course.
It's going to be the one that feels that they can feel more confident in moving forward with. And so I would say that that has helped us out, and we've locked up opportunities that we otherwise shouldn't have because they felt confident in what we were providing.
Cool. I'm keeping a tally on the guests on the confidence or skill thing. We'll see where you
Nice.
lie there. Thank you
Love
very
it.
much. That is my last question
Absolutely.
for this
Yeah.
podcast. Adam, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I really hope for a second episode if you're free. I truly,
Yeah,
truly
totally.
enjoyed it. I hope you saw it in my face.
Absolutely, man. Great time.
Yes,
Appreciate you having me. It was lots of fun.
yes. Represent NC.
Absolutely.